Residential housing appreciation. Should I buy a larger house now or wait?
I guess it depends on where you are. Buy a larger house now.
I guess have more capital in the housing market, right? If this person has a capital allocated to housing, is this the time to upgrade, have more capital in the residential housing? Generally speaking, I guess nationwide,
yes.
we think there's
upside.
There's upside. I mean, but I've actually been thinking about this myself, and I think it is regional specific because I'm not sure in the kind of Stanford, Greenwich area, there's a lot of upside in larger houses. A lot of that's driven by employment from Wall Street, et cetera.
Right.
So,
well, if you have the de-financialization, rotation in the economy broadly or in the tri-state area, that's a idiosyncratic dynamic. But longer term, we do think there's still upside in housing. We walked through this in our housing themes presentation earlier in the week. If you think about the long term, and we highlight these kind of top-down dynamics recurrently, but a few things to keep in mind. So if you're looking at new home sales, if you're looking at housing starts, new construction activity more broadly, we're still relatively depressed on a historical basis. If you look at residential construction as a percentage of GDP, we're only just above what we've observed as trough levels historically, and that's inclusive of 6 years of gains. So we do think there's upside. The housing cycles tend to be long and autocorrelated. You run from trough to peak and peak to trough. And the other, this is kind of simple, but I think it's important, is that you got to remember a couple things. The housing recovery started almost a full 3 years after the larger economic recovery. So you've had this lagged inflection in housing trends. So housing is typically, if you look at new construction activity, it's typically a mid-cycle phenomenon. And that's pretty consistent historically across cycles, except in the current instance. So whereas the broader economy is kind of later stage here, the housing cycle itself is more mid-stage.
Yeah.
And then we also had, very tight underwriting standards post-crisis. So you're not going to have a default wave like you saw in the last crisis. And we think if we do go into recession, you don't want to be long builders and housing stocks into a recession. But on the other side of that, we do think it's a buying opportunity. We think how housing stocks fare in what would be a recessionary, or even if it's a shallow recessionary environment domestically, it looks a lot more like the year 2000, 2001 in terms of how the housing stocks respond versus anything like what we saw in 2007, 2008, 2009.